bitch, you a bird, you thigh, you learn, you see, I earn, you stop. A word, I shoot, no rim, I'm high, you burn, I'm me, that's him, you nah, that's word.
Fighting on May 11th, might be this week by the time the video is posted, so happy fight week, Chase. But Chase Hooper, how we doing?
Good. Just final days of camp here. Feeling great. Getting ready to get started on this weight cut, and yeah, going good so far.
And before we actually get into the interview, I've never done this before, but I have a funny story that involves you, and you have no idea because you weren't there, but it's about me. So this was at what, UFC 245, or was it 244 that you fought on? 245?
245. Yeah.
This was, I don't know, this is what, like 4 years ago, something like that, 3 years ago. I was not even working in MMA. I was just a UFC fan, and I was driving home from like an overnight job, like 3 hours away, and I had to pee super bad. And in the middle of nowhere, one lane road, late at night by the time you guys are fighting, and your fight's on. I'm listening to it on my Bluetooth on ESPN Plus, and I pull over, I get out of the car, I'm peeing, I'm watching your fight, and a cop pulls up behind my car. And I don't get in any trouble, but he yells at me for peeing on the side of the road, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, what are you doing on your phone? Like, what's the noise coming out of your car from the Bluetooth? And it was your fight. So you got me out of a ticket because he was a UFC fan too. So thank you very much, Chase Hooper.
You're welcome. No problem.
And, man, this one, UFC St. Louis, my in-laws are actually from St. Louis. I was thinking about going down. But what are your thoughts on fighting there, man, middle of the country?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm more... I don't really know a ton about St. Louis, but I'm just excited to be back in front of like a real crowd again. Apex is cool, but it's so small. You don't get that same energy. So I'm really ready for that crowd atmosphere. And I think it's a good card. So hopefully there'll be plenty of people there, and, being at least like past the halfway point, I think people will, be in the stands. So it'll be a good time.
Oh, they'll be hungry for fights down there, man. It's going to be loud and popping. I'm Rude. Introduce me to the pups.
Oh, this is little homie Charles over here.
What's up, little homie Charles?
He insists on being held all the time, so.
That's amazing. That's preferred for me. So thank you very much, Charles. Good to meet you. And dude, you right now, 2 in a row, looking to make it 3. Your first win streak in the UFC. Like, how does that feel? Because I've seen in other interviews, you're like, I'm finding my footing. I'm now like starting my next step. So like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it before. Like, there's an adjustment period when it comes to the pressure of UFC and like just everything that comes with it. And most people never get to adjust to the pressure of that, like to the level of UFC. Like, it's a lot different than fighting at your local casino, at some local fairground, whatever. It's huge being on the world stage, and it gets to a lot of people, or it's just an adjustment period. And I think this will be my 9th fight with the company, or in UFC at least. So it's, I feel, and I never really thought I would get here, but like, it feels pretty normal to be at this point, like prepping for a fight camp, like right at the end. I know the whole process in and out from fight week to the weight cut. Like, it's all very comfortable. And yeah, I don't know. It feels normal. I feel like I'm finding my, whatever I needed mentally to kind of lock in and perform my best. And the weight cut, obviously not having to be depleting myself at 55 as much as I was doing at 45. I'm able to train harder, which helps with the confidence. And yeah, feeling great.
I mean, it's funny too, because I don't know how you feel about this, but being a fan, whenever like the commentators are like, look at Chase and his man bod now, and that started right around this win streak. Like, that's going in line with what you're saying, the next step of your career too. So like, when they say those kind of comments, just because you came into the UFC so young, like, does that make you laugh ever? Do you I know you have a good sense of humor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's funny for sure. I think a lot of it is the weight cut, like not having to cut those extra 10 pounds. I think that definitely shows. So that's definitely a part of it. But yeah, no, it's nice to be settling in, and like, yeah, I feel like I found where I need to be for the time being, at least. I'm sure there'll be a welterweight move at some point, but maybe a little down the line.
You gonna get that husky up to welterweight?
I mean, you'd be surprised at how big most of the guys are. And I've been training with a lot of welterweights this camp, and they're not much bigger than me. So, I mean, who knows?
Love it, man. Love it. The different chapters of Chase Hooper's career, but right now lightweight. So we'll keep it with Slava in this fight. And you've been keeping busy too, like since your last fight. Grappling Aljamain Sterling, that's not a small feat. I know you've been to Fury grappling before too. So how was grappling Aljo, man? Split decision, like does that hurt?
Uh, Honestly, I feel like they kind of switched the rules up on us, like how, um, because it was, who was it? Diego Lima or Douglas Lima? One of the Lima brothers fought or grappled that Rinat Fakhratinov dude. And they were before us, obviously. So I knew watching that fight, I was like, this will be a judge of how they essentially told us like the scoring criteria is submission attempts. And then that dude just wrestled Lima the whole time. And then he got the win where Lima was attacking subs the whole time. So I was like, they're switching it on us. Cause he's one of their guys, that type of thing. And I think they wanted Aljo to win. Free trip to Abu Dhabi or paid trip to Abu Dhabi, got to experience a new culture. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't as fun as I was hoping. I feel like he wasn't as aggressive as far as like attacking submissions. I want a guy that'll try to, take me out the same as I'm trying to take them out. I feel like that makes for fun matches. Yeah, I thought it was kind of frustrating. Like it wasn't a super fun match, but the rest of that week was really cool. And yeah, it's cool to travel the world and get paid to do it, and get to compete against one of the best in the world. I feel like there's still maybe like a couple tricks I picked up on that he had more on the wrestling side of things, but yeah, I thought it was a good experience overall. Just I wish the match was a little more fun for me.
Well, it's funny too because like 2 weeks before your match, I don't know if you saw him go up against Kevin Dantzler at Fury. The whole thing was, Aljo. Yeah. He was like, dude, why are you butt scooting? Everybody's like, Aljo, you actually got to like engage and pass the guard. Like this.
Yeah, for sure. He's not a jiu-jitsu guy, so I get that.
And being a wrestler, transition into jiu-jitsu, I get it. But come on, Aljo. Come on, play along, brother. We gonna see you back in Fury sometime soon?
Yeah. I mean, as long as the matchup makes sense, something like another UFC guy. Like I don't need to be out here grappling these people that are literally specifically focusing on grappling. I think that's a good way to get hurt. But another guy that's, got to split their time between MMA and wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And they're more focused on, getting punched in the face than just, the whole leg lock game, that type of thing. Like I want another guy that, is UFC vet maybe. Like the Clay Guida match was fun. Moicano was another great match. So yeah, I'd like to stay busy outside. I feel like it keeps me in a good like competitive mindset. Because especially with 6 months between fights, like sometimes it's kind of funny to say like you kind of forget how to compete, I guess. So it's nice to have these things in the middle, break that up and just keep me, locked in and focused on competing. So yeah.
And a big one coming up down in St. Louis, Slava Claus, very exciting guy, very interesting character. What are your thoughts on him and the fight in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this before. Like, I think it's a very black and white matchup. It's two specialists on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and those make for fun fights. Neither of us are really decision guys. Like, we're both going in there for the finish. I feel like he's pretty tough mentally. I've seen him in some pretty rough spots, and he hasn't broken, so I respect that for sure. But I mean, obviously the grappling is the weaker side of his game. I feel like he's had a hard time with guys that have been able to effectively get him onto the ground. And, I think I have more effective jiu-jitsu, so it's going to be about how well I'm able to implement that. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to be better on the feet, or he should be at least. I think he's a little shorter. We haven't really seen him against any longer guys. Like I think I have the reach advantage on him a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun matchup and it's a good test for me as well as him, like to see who's more ready to go up to that next level of the division. Because lightweight's so big, like there's kind of tiers to it. Mm-hmm. So it's trying to move up to that next spot. He's got exciting fights, so do I, and it's going to be a good one.
And, like when you look at his fights, and you see his thing's just kind of throwing some big hooks and landing and throwing a lot of volume. And your past fights, we've seen one, your chin hold up very well. But two, recently, you've been tucking your chin more. You haven't been getting hit nearly as much. So, like, do you think his striking is going to be able to be effective? Do you think you're going to have striking that's going to be effective? Does this go to the ground? Like, how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the fight starts on the feet, so I'm gonna have to exchange with him a little bit. But I think the fight favors him more on the feet, where it favors me more on the ground. So really, like at the end of the day, I feel like fighting at this level, it's about really taking your ego out of it and finding like the easiest way to win. And for me, very obviously, it's going to be the grappling. We've seen him struggle with the grappling before. So I got to implement it early and often. I mean, that's no secret either. Like he knows that. But I just feel like he has a lot more to worry about than I do. Like I need to obviously like keep that defense tight. I need to watch the body shots. He's got some great combinations. But yeah, I feel like his game, it's very, he's got some great timing on his combinations, but I feel like he doesn't really do anything crazy, you know? Like we haven't seen any, you know, spinning heel kicks or anything. It's all very good, like fundamentals, which is, I would say easier to train for than, you know, the wild kind of out of nowhere stuff. Like the Caceres fight for me, that whole camp. I was like, oh, I do not want to get spin kick knockout on, you know, knocked out on TV. So that was like a big thing that you know, you're trying to get ready for something crazy like that, where, you know, this camp I've been more trying to find boxers that'll kind of walk me down and, you know, try to beat me up in the pocket like that. And yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job trying to emulate that as best as we can.
Now, who wins in a dance-off, though? Because you've seen that guy got some moves.
Yeah, I can't do my knees don't do that. The little Slav squat dance thing. I don't have that ability. So as long as he doesn't challenge me to a dance-off, I think we'll be all right.
Did you just coin the term Slav squat, or was that already a thing?
Oh, no, that's been a thing.
I thought you just coined that. I was like, dude, that's brilliant.
No, I don't know what the dance is called, so I was winging it.
Well, hey, man, so the Slav squat is it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. And another big thing on your horizon before I ask you some more about fighting is you got a baby on the way, my friend. So coming pretty quickly after fight time too. How are you feeling about all this? The house getting ready?
Yeah, definitely. We already got the nursery ready and all that. Really, like, honestly, we've been in contact with a matchmaker since December trying to get a fight. Really, the main thing was like, I can't fight in June. It's got to be before. Yeah. So the timing works out perfectly. Like, like a little over a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks after that for the due date. So, yeah, I mean, bang this out, get paid, and then you know, get to, you know, relax a little bit, you know, adjust to all that type of stuff. And then, yeah, back, I mean, September at the earliest, you know, take the summer off, get used to not sleeping and all that. So, yeah, see how it goes.
Are you ready for all like you know, it's coming, like the Chase Hooper dad bod, daddy chase. It's coming, bro. You ready?
We'll see. I think I'm ready to get a little fatter for sure, at least for a little bit of time. Not permanently, but I'm definitely ready to stop dieting, but that's how it goes.
When Frivola's not training, he calls himself Cream Rolla. So you're puffing up this summer too. I'm about it. And Chase, man, big win here, dude. 3 in a row. That's talking. That's making noise in the new division, undefeated. What's next? You said September, but are there any cards you're eyeing up? Anyone that you want to fight? You're kind of at the point you can call your shots, man. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Patty matchup is a fun one, like down the road a little bit. But I'm sure UFC is trying to get him a top 15, like a Moicano or a Bobby Green, whichever guy they think he can beat the easiest. But I don't know, maybe start looking at some of the unranked, like the vets, kind of start trying to move my way up from there. I think that's, you know, how these guys, like the newer guys, like Patty, you know, like he's fighting the vets, the older guys that are kind of on their way out. Yeah, I think maybe get this win and then start looking at, you know, a little more of a well-rounded guy and, you know, work my way up from there. I mean, it's a big division. There's plenty of dudes to fight in it. So we'll see.
And as you're working your way up the division pretty quickly now, I got to ask you about the big one coming up. Dustin Poirier, Islam Makhachev, the top of your division. Who takes that one? Does Dustin catch his guillotine?
I honestly think it's going to go the same way it went with Dustin and Khabib.
Me too.
You know, I'm a Poirier fan. I wanted to see him with the belt, but you know, anybody from Dagestan is going to be tough for anybody really to get. Who knows? I mean, he's always got a puncher's chance. Everybody does. But yeah, I'd put my money on Islam for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a tough matchup, man. You know, anytime anyone's got to go up against Islam, especially a boxer like Dustin, it's tough, but I'd love to see him shock the world. It would be awesome. And Chase, man, again, I appreciate the time. It's been about 15 minutes now. So before we get out of here, I just want to give you the opportunity. So many fans, a lot of people hopefully checking in on this interview, and you already know a lot of people watching that fight next week. So anything you'd like to say to everyone? If so, the mic is yours.
No, I mean, thanks for having me. Great talking to you. And yeah, hope to see everybody in St. Louis, and it's going to be a good one. Get ready for it.
Chase Hooper, May 11th, UFC St. Louis. Don't miss it, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a banger. Chase, thank you, my man, and have a good rest of the week, man. Happy fight week.